Oh, that was beautiful. What's up, everyone? It's your boy Norn Rad89 here, bringing you another rad movie review today for a recent horror film that came out this year in 2025. It's called The Ugly Stepsister. This is a Norwegian body horror film that takes a very dark twist on the Cinderella story, where we follow through the perspective of one of the ugly stepsisters, as the title claims, you know what I mean? So in terms of this film, like I said, this was a very great surprise that I highly recommend. It's currently streaming on Shudder. So let's get down to it. Today we're going to talk about the positives and negatives and the rating. Roll it. So The Ugly Stepsister of 2025 is a Norwegian body horror film directed by Emilie Blichfeldt. I'm sorry if I butchered that last name. I really tried, Emilia, but this film is amazing. I have to say, me being a body horror fan and me being also a fan of dark tales when it comes to, you know, those spins on, like, you know, Peter Pan or Cinderella or Snow White, but you take, or Little Red Riding Hood, but you take a more dark path, Hansel and Gretel, you know, stuff like that. When you're able to take a dark twist on some of those awesome fairy tales from back in the day, I'm a huge fan of that as well. And The Ugly Stepsister is one of the best and most unique versions of it, I think, because, like I said, we follow the perspective of the stepsister Elvira in this one. And I think Lea Myren, that's the actress that plays her, does a fantastic job. Starting with the positives, the casting and the acting in here is amazing. I don't typically know the cast members in here. I haven't really seen them in anything else, but that actually helps. When you go to a movie sometimes, and especially when it's a foreign film and you know you're going to be reading subtitles, when it's cast members you don't normally know, it kind of helps you to get immersed into the characters and the world even more. And like I said, I think all the actors and actresses in here did a beautiful job in interpreting this story. One other key positive I want to talk about is the period piece setting. This really does suck you into this time period in terms of the dresses, the production design, the atmosphere, the coloring, just the way it looks. Like, it just really does. And even the dialect, it really does suck you into that time period and make you feel like you're there in the old English times, and just seeing what these girls had to go through to kind of, with beauty standards back then, it kind of mirrors what is going on now. And this film does have a lot of similar themes and a lot of similar story beats to The Substance, which is a film that came out a few months ago, and this one does hit on a lot of those themes as well. Like I said, in terms of beauty standards when it comes to women, this is focusing on an older time period, but even back then, it was, marriage was more of a business, and these women had to look beautiful and go through all these things, and beauty is pain just to please one prince or one nobleman. It just really was a crazy time. And like I said, I think this movie does a fantastic job of putting you in that time period. I'm a body horror fan, and you guys know I love body horror, and this film goes for the gruesome, grotesque, realistic effects, and I love it. This film is is one of those films that I don't think it's stomach turning for me, but it had me going like, oh shit, what the fuck? Like, you know, it had me doing that. It had me having physical reactions. I didn't feel like I was going to vomit or anything, but I was having physical reactions and saying things out loud when stuff was going on screen. And keep in mind, I watched this film at home on Shudder. That's where you can stream this film. So I was watching it here at home on Shudder, and it just had me going like, oh, like, you know, those moments. And I love that when a body horror film is able to push the limits. So I've never understood why people are like, oh, when it comes to body horror, they just go for the grotesque value. It's just for, you know, for shock value. That's literally the point of body horror, is we're supposed to push the limits. We're supposed to shock you. We're supposed to do amazing practical effects and show you the most grotesque stuff you've ever seen. So I've never understood the argument of, oh, it's just for shock value, what they show us. No, this film shows you the amazing and awful stuff and the grotesque nature of what women had to go through back then, and what they would put themselves through to actually please a patriarchy patriarchy era, man, it's freaking crazy. And like I said, the body horror is right up there in that level with the substance. Another thing I want to praise about this film is the score. It's not a typical score that you would hear for a film of this time period. It's actually a score that has more synthesizer stuff, more of a Daft Punk type keyboard, melodic type scores, but also some upbeat scores as well. It's definitely different, and like I said, it's more of a modern score, but it fits this film. Another show that I would recommend is Mr. Robot. That music that's kind of going on during that show, that's the kind of music you hear in this movie, and I think it fits the film very well. Like I said, this film just elevated itself so much. It was one of those films that I started it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get sucked into this. It's a foreign film. Sometimes I have to be like in a certain mood. And this film just from the get-go grabbed me with the period piece setting, with the dialect, with just the way it looked and like the freaking nature of it. Like I said, it is a slow build as well. I'm telling you right now, it's a little bit of a slow build, but the characters you feel for, and it's so tragic, and I just really love it. And there's also dark, evil characters to hate too, like the stepmother, like the mother of Elvira, and then the stepmother to Cinderella. She is awful, which Cinderella's character in this film is called Agnes, but yeah, the stepmother is just completely awful in the way they portray her on screen and in the story, and the actress does chef's kiss. So yeah, there are characters to love in this film. There's characters to hate, and there's also characters to sympathize with. And I like the fact that this film is a pretty fast-paced watch. For me, it didn't feel that long at all. Like, I don't think this film needs to be shrunk down or anything. I think this film has everything it needs to have in it, and it just fits. And it's like one of those films, like I said, it's just a tragic tale. And as I was taking this journey, I feel for this character, and I'm immersed in this character, and I want the best for her. And to see it just collapse and see all these tragic things going on and what she puts herself through, it like literally just hurts your heart. Like, I wasn't crying, but I was like, I literally kind of was like feeling pain in my heart. Was like, I want to just reach out and like hug this girl and like give her support. And that's a great director. A great story and a great director are able to do that, where they're able to suck you into these characters and make you feel for them in such a way that it sticks with you. Now that we talked about a laundry list of positives, like you can tell, I was praising this film. In terms of just going to talk about it right now, before we get into mixed and negatives, or before we even get into the rating for this film, I'm going to talk to you about how I feel about this film just as a general over the whole year, 2025. I haven't seen a ton of horror films. Like I said, I've seen The Monkey, though. I've seen Wolfman. I've seen, Companion. I've seen Hard Eyes, Fear Street Prom Queen, so I've seen a good amount. So far right now this year, this is my favorite of the year. This, like I said, came out, this was doing the festival circuit. I believe last year it was doing the festival circuit, but in terms of its official release, it got dropped on Shudder this year. This is absolutely my favorite horror film so far to date, as it stands right now, as of this date. So let's get into the mixed and negatives, and there's really only a couple, not really a huge amount. There's really only a couple. And when it comes to our Cinderella character, our Agnes character, this comes into play a little bit in the third act, so I don't really want to spoil too much, but I just feel like we spend a majority of our time with the other character, Elvira, so there's just certain things that Agnes comes in and does, and there's certain things that her character represents that I know what it means to the story. Don't get me wrong, it serves the story, so this isn't something that's like a negative to the movie itself. Like I said, it serves the story and a point to the film, but it's something that I kind of still hate. Maybe it's because I feel so much for our ugly stepsister character, you know what I mean, Elvira. Maybe it's because I feel so much for her that I got very attached, that, like I said, certain things that transpire in the third act, I don't want to spoil it, but certain things that transpire in the third act, I definitely dislike certain characters in this film, and I'm like, ah. Another thing is that this is a foreign film. Like I said, this is subtitles, and it's a thick dialect film in terms of listening to it. There's some quotes and some terms in here that you're not really going to know, or things that you're probably going to have to look up if you're not familiar with them. So like I said, but that kind of goes in hand with it being such a good period piece, that it is a very great one, and it takes you to that time period, but this isn't going to be an easy film for everyone to attach to or just grab onto. I loved loved it because, like I said, for the multitude of reasons that I labeled for the positives already, but it's such a grim tale of the fairy tales, and I love going into these because they're so dark, they're so realistic, and when you're able to give me characters that I could attach onto and latch onto, that just makes the story so much more potent and so much more palpable. And like I said, for me, as it stands right now, The Ugly Stepsister is easily clear-cut my favorite horror film of the year so far as it stands. And in terms of a rad rating for this film, it's going to get a 9.5 out of 10. Some of those, like I said, those negatives, I can easily overlook because after, in my mind, when I'm thinking about it, when I return to this film again, I'm definitely going to understand why there's certain characters and why they do and serve certain points in the film. But I just really wanted a more, I don't know, a more just happier ending, but that's not the point of this film. And that's what it sucks because, like I said, I love this film. It's not the point of this film is to be happy. But like I said, it's just one of those movies that I wanted more solace. I wanted more warm feelings, but I do definitely recommend this film. It's currently streaming on Shudder, and I can't wait to return to this film. Please like the video. That definitely helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and have that notification bell poked so you're notified anytime I drop a video. But most importantly, I want you all to have a safe and happy day. Peace out.